What's up, everybody? Welcome to the High Level Husband Podcast. I'm Tommy McCollister, joined by Dianne McCollister.
Hey.
And so today we're doing it in our old studio today, just to knock out a quick one. And so we're going to let it rip. We want to just speak on today what's been happening specifically. That's something that stuck out to me last night, but then also stuck out in multiple coaching sessions over the past few days. And so we thought it was imperative that we actually share this with you guys as well, so you can get the value on it as well. What is something in your life that is holding you back, that is blocking a blessing from you being able to get what you actually are wanting in life? Whether that's in your marriage, whether that's in your finances, whether that's in your closeness with God, there's something that's blocking that relationship with you and your spouse or whatever that may be, or something else in your life. Mm-hmm. And a lot of times people don't know exactly what that is, or you try to justify it and hold on to these things and you know what it is, or maybe sometimes you don't even know what it is, but it's slowly blocking everything in your life. So I'm going to use an example on this. There's a guy in our program. He joined 1 week ago. And on the call yesterday, first time I got on a call with him, we have multiple facets of how we run our program. And he said, dude, I already got my money's worth and I haven't even done one call with you yet. Because like I said, there's multiple ways that we deliver this. But what he said was, you challenged me to remove something from my life. And by doing that, I'm already seeing wild things happen in my life.
And marriage. Specifically.
Yeah, specifically his marriage. And he said, to be honest with you, I didn't see it as a big problem. But there was always just this little voice telling me, maybe it is. Maybe you need to stop doing this. I was like, I would find Bible verses that would, kind of justify my answers, and I'd try to manipulate him to my way and all these things. But he said, it's no irony that in the very first thing that you had me do was this, and I've known I've needed to do it for a while. He says, and that was alcohol. Mm-hmm. People are going to be like, oh, well, alcohol's not a big problem. He's like, well, if you're an alcoholic, yeah. He's like, well, dude, I'm not an alcoholic. He's like, I don't get drunk. I don't even get buzzed. But I'll have a drink or two every single night, whether that's a beer or two, every single night. And he says, I didn't even drink alcohol until I was 24 years old. But he says that as my life progressed, and he's in his 40s now, he says, it just, especially more specifically in the last few years, I just started having 1 or 2 beers a day. Now, some people are going to say, well, dude, that's not an issue. I'm not getting drunk. Oh, but it is. And it doesn't have to do just because of it being drunk. Just as ways money can be bad. Because it can become an idol. It can be something that blocks the spirit. It can be something that's blocking you from getting to where you need to be. And he said, so you know what? I joined this program. I'm going to do what you say. I'm going to stop this. He says, and I've stopped for a month before, but it just wasn't tied to anything that was really, had any meaning to it. And this time, the way you framed it attached so much meaning to it that it just hit differently. So I agreed to say, hey, let's do this. And he said, I love that you said, I'm not saying do this forever or anything like that. So it took pressure off and all this. But I also told him, just watch what God does. He said, literally 4 days later, my wife came up to me and said, there's something different about you. There's
ding, ding, ding.
Just something different. Your mood's different. The way you're loving is different. And it's not like he's drinking all day long. Like I said, there's just something different about him. And he said because of that, his wife was like touching him just a little bit differently, doing things differently. And he said, we ended up having the best sex that we've had in years, where you could tell she wasn't just doing it to go through the motions. And yeah, she might enjoy it, but she was into it, he said. In years, 4 days, removing one thing from his life. changed it that much in 4 days. So what's going to happen when all the other stuff that I'm going to coach him through and guide him through and let the Holy Spirit speak through to me, him, and let God guide and all of that stuff? What do you think is going to change? Our method is drastically mind-blowing with what happens when you actually do these things. Because I'm going to tell you something that hit me last night. Hebrews 12 says this: "Therefore, since we are surrounded by such a great cloud of witnesses, let us throw off everything that hinders and the sin that is so easily entangles." We are surrounded by such a great cloud of witnesses. This could be people, or this could be your spouse.
Right.
Because they're a witness of what's going on.
Yeah, your biggest witness.
Let us throw off everything that hinders, and the sin that so easily entangles. But it starts with, let us throw off everything that hinders. It doesn't start off by saying, let's start with sin. It says, and. It starts with something else first. Let us throw off everything that hinders. Because by having a beer too, he's not necessarily sinning. Because the Bible speaks against drunkenness.
And he doesn't necessarily know that that's hindering him either. Or anything in his life.
Because that's the new normal. Dude's uber successful financially. Marriage is pretty good, not terrible. Pretty good relationship with his kids. Pretty good relationship with God. Like, he's doing pretty good when he told me he's looking to go from good to great. You might be looking to go from bad to good. Or you might be looking to go from good to great, because far too many people are too good to be great. And that was us for many years. He didn't know it was hindering him. There's something that's blocking him from not finding those levels. He's like, I can't figure it out. I'm doing all these things. I'm patient with my tongue. I don't yell at my wife and like things like that, and like all these things. He says, maybe I do that with the kids. He says, or maybe just other things. But I don't do that with my wife. He's like, so it's like he was too good to be great. But what are these things that are hindering us? So what are the things that are hindering you? What's the weight that you're carrying around that you might need to just let go of? It's not always I'm sleeping with the neighbor, or I'm embezzling from my work.
It's not always these giant big things in your life. They could be something small that we're carrying, that because you've been carrying it for so long, it's hindering you even more.
It's exhaustion.
Yeah.
Running is easy if you just do it a little bit, right? But the longer you go with running, the harder it gets.
Yeah.
And so what it is like, what is even those little things in your life that you're carrying that are blocking huge blessings in your life from you going to next levels? And that's what I've noticed about marriage. That's what I've noticed about faith life. That's what I've noticed about business, is that God all of a sudden has me remove these big things. And then it's like, I got all them out of the way. Then it's the next things. Then it's the next things. Then it's the next things. And so where I'm at in removing things now, people will be like, dude, that ain't even a sin, bro. Come on, chill out. Live life a little bit. But I'm like, man, I want to find out what it's like to be that close to God.
Don't we all?
And that's what he told me yesterday. He goes, man, at the end of the day, I just crave the Holy Spirit more than I crave alcohol. I just didn't know it was blocking me and bothering me or anything. I didn't even know it. But then now I'm starting to pay attention. The Bible says, who has ears, let him hear. So he's showing it to him. So guys, what is it that you're willing to give up? You might say that's too hard. Or you might say, I don't see that's a problem. But if you keep going in Hebrews 12, it says, in your struggle against sin, you have not resisted to the point of shedding your blood. Which means I've tried it. It didn't really work for me. I don't know. I didn't think it was that big of a deal. Have you resisted to the point of shedding blood? Have you removed something and it was so hard, or maybe something that you didn't think was so hard, but you actually did it long enough to see the fruit from it, that it was such challenging? Anybody can quit anything for a few days, but can anybody quit anything for a long period of time? And what I shared with him was, I go, bro, I already know. I love that we didn't put any pressure of like, you can never drink again. But I already know what God's going to do. He's going to remove this from your life permanently, because he's going to change your heart. You're going to watch so much fruit in your life happen. You're going to be like, I ain't ever going back. It ain't even worth it. I've done that so many times in my life. And I used to be a Catholic, but years ago they do Lent, right? They still do Lent. And I
Mhm.
think it's still super beneficial. It's actually a really beneficial thing. For 40 days, you give up something. For me, one year it was video games. I gave up video games, and my kids were very young at that time. And I remember at that time thinking, dude, I played so many hours every day that I would just come back at the end of the 40 days. But I wanted to give up something that was super hard for me. Guess what? End of the 40 days, never came back. Ever. I was like, oh, I don't need it.
Mhm.
It was just a routine, a habit in my life. And I didn't realize it was hindering because guess what? I would get off work at 11, play with my friends who I worked with until 3 in the morning. My kids were sleeping. And then I remember so many mornings they would wake me up by hitting me on the face and go, Daddy, get up. And I'd turn on another Mickey Mouse Clubhouse and just sleep on the couch, right? For another hour or two.
But what happens when you stop doing that and you were up probably earlier, spending more time with quality time with your kids and
Had more time for myself to work
yeah,
out, to do all these other things,
yeah,
and just feel more energized because I wasn't up all night.
blocking so many blessings by doing that.
So it wasn't that video games were a sin, but it was hindering me from becoming the dad that I was trying to be, or a husband, and you
Mhm.
seeing me differently, knowing that I was putting the things on for the kids, you seeing me differently in those things. And so, guys, I want to challenge you guys. What is it? Because one of these things could be is what is it that your wife or wives to met husbands,
Yeah.
what is something that you're holding on to that's blocking that? But what's also something that maybe your spouse doesn't know? Because if your spouse doesn't know something that you're doing or have done, they don't have the full story of why they're actually loving you. It would be a lie.
Mhm. Hence extra weight on your shoulders for sure.
Some people have cheated on their spouses and they've never told them, and maybe it's been years. Something, maybe you're addicted to porn. We had somebody this week who joined our program, and he said he felt so convicted between the program and just other things that were going on in his life. He said, I had a folder in my phone, no joke,
Mm.
that I had 1 terabyte worth of pictures of other women in my phone. And
Huge.
that's not like women that are sending them to him or things like that, but that's probably like Instagram pictures and things like that,
Right.
you know. He's like, my wife had no idea I was a porn addict. He's like, so one, I rem those that file to get to 1 terabyte, years, right? Like that's an insane amount of photos. He said, dude, it was so hard for me to do that, to hit actually delete. But now not only did he delete that folder, he deleted his shame, his guilt, that weight, all of that stuff that is hindering and holding him back, because that is
Mhm.
sin, not just the hindering stuff, the stuff that hinders. This is sin. And then he told his wife that he is struggling with porn. He said the conversation was amazing. All these other things started happening. She supports him. She was like, wow, thank you for sharing me. I didn't know. Like,
He let her in on something that's been a big part of his life and shared that with her. How hard that is to be able to share that with somebody, especially something like that.
I mean, explain that from a woman's perspective, babe. That like, I think a lot of men are like, ooh, I wouldn't tell my wife. She'd trip out and flip out on me.
No, she'd probably be thankful that you were actually opening up and sharing something that deep and that was that much of a struggle.
That you had the balls to do it.
Yes, the courage. Yeah, that you had balls, courage.
I like to be a little more vulgar on here.
Yeah, that you had the courage to open up and be able to share something that's that big.
Because just think about it, if they ever find out,
That's when they're going to get mad, is when you don't share those things knowing that you were hiding something like that instead of actually just having the courage to be able to open up and share it.
right? Or years later, but by you not sharing it, you're slowing that progress because you know in your mind, I've never told her that I struggled with that. I've never said that. Or you know, when you speak that into the people, you can't really use the authority of you overcoming that because you don't want to tell your kids or friends, because you don't want to get it to get back to your wife to know that you were struggling with that. So when you just bring it out in the open, you got nothing to hide. And that's freeing.
Mm-hmm.
Then God's also saying, I trust you. You can be trusted with little, can be trusted with many. Now he's going to throw some other things in your life because he knows you're going to be trusted with it.
And who's going to trust you even more too?
Your wife.
Yeah.
Then she might open up about something that she's been holding on to. Then that's going to give you the balls to next time share something. Maybe it's not even as big as that. Now it opens vulnerability in your marriage because you're shared something so big that everything underneath it isn't even an issue anymore, that you're just going to share it all. then that creates connection, and connection leads to affection, and affection and all of that is all about love. You're blocking love when you're blocking the connection. When you're blocking the connection, it's from not being vulnerable and you're holding on to something. What is hindering in your life right now? And I hope you're feeling convicted. Father, I'm asking that you convict them right now. You convict me, you convict Dianne of the things that we have in our life that we need to remove so we can serve and love you more, and we can serve and love our spouses even more, and we can go and get these things that you have for our lives. Thank you, Father. And so, guys, I'm just going to end on that note. What is that thing that's hindering you that you need to remove? It's powerful.
Mm-hmm.
Let's get it. Let's change your life. So I just wanted Dianne on this one's what we did on this thing here, but I just said, babe, let's just jump on here. And she didn't even know the topic. And so then basically, so she can just be the wingman today. So we love you guys. One thing we always want to just say is if you need coaching or anything like that, there's a free resource in the bio down below. And it means the world to us if you could just rate this podcast a 5-star. It really, I tell you what, it means the world to us. It truly does. And so God bless y'all. When we speak these hard truths, it really is to just see you guys grow to find out what is possible in life and marriage. So much love. God bless.
Bye, guys.
I thought it was a quick 16. That was good.
Yeah.